The continuing prevalence of sexual harassment in our country has led to some major legislative reform. We've had major changes to the Sex Discrimination Act, the Fair Work Act, our Work Health and Safety laws, and the WGEA Act. And it's all been about shifting organisational responsibility from reactive compliance with laws to being accountable for the systemic prevention of sexual harassment and what I talk about as related unlawful behaviours, sex-based harassment, sex discrimination, hostile workplace environments, and related victimisation. Businesses will notice that it's no longer enough now to rely on people to make complaints after they've already been impacted by these harms, because the harm has already been done by that stage. And it really doesn't work to expect people when they're at their most vulnerable to make reports. And we know in our country from multiple data that sexual harassment and related harms are very underreported in our country. So the positive duty has come in as a federal standard in our Sex Discrimination Act. There's also a positive duty in Victoria, but this is at a federal level. And this is what is really shifting the dial. It's a qualitative change to focus organisational accountability on preventing harm. And it does that by requiring employers or people who conduct a business or undertaking to take reasonable and proportionate steps to eliminate these behaviours I've been speaking about. The positive duty is going to be enforceable by the Human Rights Commission and ultimately the federal courts from December of this year. And this is a really important change, these compliance powers, which we haven't had before. So the Fair Work Commission now has new powers to issue stop sexual harassment orders and to resolve sexual harassment disputes. The Commission will make these orders when there is a continuing risk of sexual harassment occurring. In some ways, the damage in this case has already been done because they're coming to have the conduct stopped and orders won't be made unless that conduct is continuing. However, I think what's really important to understand with this jurisdiction is that it's in the hands of our organisations as to whether their employees seek this external redress. Employees will seek out the Commission to help them when they feel that their concerns are not being taken seriously in their workplace and that they don't trust their workplace to take appropriate action to prevent harm. I see the risk lens through which boards are looking at the behaviours of senior leaders in relation to sexual harassment shifting. And that's really important because the priority needs to change from a priority focus on minimising damage to reputation and legal liability to really focusing on creating a culture where everyone feels psychologically and physically safe to come to work. Shareholders, investors, employees, the media and regulators expect this will be the case. I think it's easy for people to see all this new regulation become overwhelmed by it. So I think it's also really important that people understand how it fits together through that common purpose of preventing harm. And then I think what's really important for business leaders to do is to stand back and really ask themselves, what do we need to do to keep our people safe? And then unpick that and identify the obstacles which may be preventing you from keeping your people safe. And then set your priorities, which are going to have the most timely and biggest impact in creating the change to keep people safe. You need to look at your leadership and your governance. You need to be person-centred and trauma-informed in your approach. You need to be transparent about what you stand for, what you're doing and what you're learning. And you always need to apply a safety lens. When you put all those ingredients together, you create the psychological safety that your people come to trust that you are taking this issue seriously and that you will take reasonable and proportionate action if concerns are raised. And then when you take that action and people see it, it further builds that trust and creates what we talk about as a virtual cycle of prevention. More concerns are raised and people stop the behaviours because they know that they will be accountable if they engage in them. In other words, those behaviours are prevented. I would say in summary that creating and maintaining a safe and respectful workplace and a working environment which is free from harm is the key to a flourishing and productive workplace. But this is not a set and forget exercise. Everyone in an organisation needs to know what their responsibilities are, they need to be supported, and they need to be accountable in keeping everybody safe.